Hello, I'm the masked amp. I've got a mask and I'm an amp. As well as my full-time job as a social worker, between 1983 and 1997, I also worked 1 or 2 shifts a week on the out-of-hours standby duty team. This team dealt exclusively with emergencies and crises that arose outside normal working hours. We covered nights, weekends and bank holidays. We were entirely generic. One evening, I received a call from the police to attend the police station as an appropriate adult under PACE, the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, while they interviewed a young boy who had been arrested for a distraction burglary. Little was known about him, as he appeared unable or unwilling to provide much information. He was from a group of Irish travellers who had settled on a piece of wasteland on the edge of a small market town. He had been arrested when he and an older boy had been reported for attempting to steal from a householder. Distraction burglaries involve one person engaging someone in their garden in conversation while an accomplice nips into the house and has a search for valuables. The older boy had made off, but the police had managed to catch Sean. Sean was unclear about his surname and appeared not to know his date of birth. All he knew was that he was 13 years old. This knowledge could have been influenced by knowing that he could not be remanded in custody if he was under 14. I sat in on the interview, during which he admitted nothing and appeared to know nothing. Having gone through the due process, the custody sergeant was keen to dispose of him. This presented me with a problem. As an appropriate adult, I had a responsibility for his welfare unless and until I could find an adult, preferably a parent, who could take on responsibility for him. Sean was extremely vague about whether or not he had any relatives living in the UK. He said that his mother was in the Republic of Ireland, but was unclear as to the whereabouts of his father or any other relatives. Unless I could find somebody, I would have to accommodate him in a local authority children's home. I discussed the problem with the custody sergeant. Do you think you could get an officer to pop over to the travellers' site and see if there's a relative there? I asked hopefully. The sergeant looked at me as if I had suggested that he take Sean home with him at the end of his shift. We'd be asking for trouble if a police car turned up there, he said. It'd be too dangerous. It's strictly off limits. So what was I to do? I really did not want to place Sean in a children's home if I could help it. In the end, I decided I'd have to go there myself. By now, it was quite late in the evening. I cautiously entered the site in my car. The caravans all appeared to be in darkness. Although there were a number of vehicles on the site, there appeared to be no actual people. I wandered around somewhat apprehensively for a little while, then saw a face peering at me through a window in one of the caravans. When the face saw that I had spotted them, it withdrew rapidly, but I went forward and knocked on the door. After a pause, the door opened a little and a man looked suspiciously at me. I wonder if you can help me, I began. Do you happen to know a boy called Sean? I'm not sure about that, the man answered with a strong Irish accent, which I won't try to copy. You see, I continued, I've got this problem. Sean's down at the police station. I don't know anything about that, the man interrupted. The police have finished interviewing him and he's ready to be released. I'm a social worker, and unless I can find a relative, or at least a responsible adult who can take charge of him, I'll have to put him into care in a children's home. The man looked at me silently, considering what I had said. At last he said, "I'll tell you what, you bring this young lad down here and I'll see if I can find anyone who knows him and can take care of him." I went back to the police station, picked Sean up and brought him back to the site. The man opened the door of his caravan and examined the young boy for a moment. "You come and get in here, son," he said to Sean at last. "Yes, Dad," Sean replied sheepishly and slipped inside. If you have been, thank you for watching. If you found any of my videos entertaining or informative, please like and subscribe.